Hello, good evening. So we are capturing the Orion Nebula from my back garden. And I'm live stacking it over here. So we've already got literally that's 8 30-second exposures, which is crazy. This is my plan tonight. I've got 20 30-second exposures, 20 15, 10 180 all in HA, and then I'll repeat for each of the three filters. I think we should end up with a reasonable image, and I'll keep going. Moon's at 99% tonight, but I'm imaging in narrowband, so that is blocking out a lot of that light. So we're on 11 already. Let's have a look what it's looking like in the live stack. I might even need to go less than 15 seconds. We'll see what those come out like. Here in the UK, it's been a fantastic start to 2022. We've had clear nights for more, well, albeit sometimes it's clouded over in the early hours, but we've had a lot of clear nights so far, which is always good. Shame the full moon's up, nearly full moon, but I'll take any chance I get to get some imaging time in. This is live stack. There's now 12 images in live stack. Obviously, there's no flats or dark to this. But you can sort of see the structures are starting to come through really well. Literally 12 30-second exposures. By the time it's stacked it here, it's found that there's another exposure dropped on. Start stacking that as well. My guiding's at about 1, which I'm not too bothered about with it being 30 and 15-second subs at the moment. So we're on image 15 of 20 for this first set of subs. I'll withhold from looking from the stacked image until it's done a few more. So we've got the Great Orion Nebula here. I've never actually imaged it other than a really wide field. I think it was 135 mil I did with the Horsehead in. That was with a camera lens as well. So this is the first time I've actually imaged it with a telescope and a proper astro camera. That's a stacked image. We can see the Rayman coming in. Look at the framing for this photo. Yeah. We have 15 images. We're already on image 17 though. If anyone's got any questions from the three that are watching, feel free to ask. This is the boring part of astrophotography. We're just monitoring things and looking at the results in real time. So we've got 16 images in this stack. See that? Yeah, what was that? Okay, we're good. All good in the hood. So we're on image 19 of 20 of this first HA pass. Image 20 done. No, image 20 doing. Let's see where the stack's got up to. Only on image 18. He's actually taking the images quicker than it can stack them. So we should be now. Just waiting for the dither to finish. Yeah, we're on the 15-second exposures. Let's see what 15 seconds gives us. Here it comes. I mean, that is ridiculous. 15 seconds. I might have to step it down even further to get the trapezium in. I think I can see them here. That's them. Might have to go down even lower, which I can do that at the end of this plan. So what? I keep putting that. Let me close that. Detect a new file, but another stack is currently integrating. Wow. The live stack's struggling to keep up. What I'm going to do, tell it to pause this sequence after this next sub, and I'm going to add. So I don't have to change filter. I'm going to add a HA line in here for what? I'm going to put 5-second subs. So before we get to the 180s, we will do 20 5-second subs. HA. What did there every 5 frames? It's not really going to. So let's just check that. And need to add one in for 03. It's over here. do 20 seconds, 5 seconds, 3. And then finally, we will do 5 seconds. So before I resume this, let me just check it's right. 30, 15, 5, 180, 13, 15, 5, 180, 30, 15, 5, 180, HA, 03, 003, S3. Yep, looks good. Carry on, go. Let's see if the stack's still broken. Oh no, it's going. It's caught up. I'm not sure the stack because yeah, we're going to blow out the core here because it's not. These would be usually stacked individually. Look at the subs. There's going to be a ton in here. Absolute ton. Yeah. That's what we've done so far. Before I forget, in case this crashes. Hello, good evening for anybody who's just joined. We'll turn my head torch. I thought it was on. I could see a reflection. So we're imaging the Orion Nebula in monochrome using HA antlia 3nm filters. The moon's at 99%. It has risen. If we have a quick look in stellarium, where it is, there's the moon. There's where we're imaging at the moment. So tomorrow night, which is also clearer, the moon rises later. So we'll to hopefully to get some, I'll say, better quality subs. I've done 13 of these, and the live stack is blown out. So I'll see what it makes of all of them before I try something else with the live stack. I will be stacking them myself using PixInsight. I'm just using the live stack feature of the Easy Processing Suite just so we can see what we're getting in real time. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy. A 15-second exposure. It is obviously the brightest nebulae in our sky. Almost see it with your naked eye. If you just look to the left of just underneath Orion's belt, you can just see a fuzzy blur, which is this. So we've nearly done the 15-second subs, and then we're going to go on to the 5-second subs. And the reason I'm taking multiple exposures is, as you can see, that these are already blowing out the core. So I'm hoping these 5-second ones will reveal the trapezium and the core in more detail. So then when I stack them together manually, we'll get a better. You see here, it's completely blown out. But that's because this is literally not taking into account the fact that they're all different exposure lengths. It's just taking it all. But I'm using this to see what sort of detail we're getting in the outside. fiddle with stuff. So if anybody's got any questions, any beginners in who want to ask some how to get started, or they've got a problem, I can try my best to answer it. Can't guarantee it, but I'll try my best. Guiding's a bit pony, but 15-second subs, it won't matter. And we're now on the 5-second subs. So that is a 5-second exposure. And we can see the trapeze. I'm sure that's the trapezium, isn't it? Yeah. Let's see if that live stacking has done those. No. What I am going to do is when it switches filter, the 180-second ones are going to be very, very overexposed in the middle. So hopefully with the combination of the 5, the 15, the 10 and the 30-second exposure, we should be able to preserve some of this very bright area of the nebula. Hello, Mr. Cliff S. Yeah, it's an incredibly short exposure we're in at the moment. So this is the plan so far. I've got 20 30-second exposures, 20 15 and 25 exposures, and we're going to 10 180, and we're just on the back end of these 11 out of 20. So the scope, as you can see in the bottom corner, you probably can't tell what it is, but it's a Skywatcher ESPRIT 100 ED triplet. So it's a refractor, and I'm using a QHY 268M, which is a phenomenal camera. And this is a live stack, albeit it's a blown out core live stack, but this is literally not taking into account the live stacking function in Easy Processing Suite is great, but it's what I'm going to do is, after I've just seen what it finishes off like for HA, I'm going to just try a live stack of the shorter subs and see what they show, because effectively that will give us a good idea as to what detail we've preserved. Reminds me of going back to school, when the kids go back to school, Orion. So, you know, when you get everybody who's posting pictures of their kids' first day at school, starting a new term. That's what Orion is to me on Astro Imaging, on both AstroBin, Facebook, Instagram. Everybody's taking pictures of Orion, so there's a lot of them. And if you were in earlier, I've mentioned I've never imaged it before, other than quite a wide field shot. So this is the first time I've actually imaged it with a proper camera, in quotes, and a telescope, because my last one was with a Sigma 72-200 f2.8 lens. And I'm going to be controversial. It's not my favourite target at all. I don't know. I describe it as a tin of spilt paint when you look at some of the images. But I'm happy to take what will be my first proper image of Orion. That's the live stack still. So what I'm actually going to do, when it gives me chance, it's still trying to catch up. So we're now on the 180-second exposures. So we've completed, this is the last of the HA. So these are 3-minute exposures, mainly to capture details in this area, and the running man, which I think is over here. Got my orientation right. Wait for this thing to catch up. Apologies, I've still got my torch on my head, but I do it. I'll put it down, I won't be able to find it, and I'll need to go outside for something, so I just kept it on my head. I'm just going to post, see if I can get some more people in without spamming Facebook. I just go quiet for a second. I love the 100 ESPRIT. I know it's Skywatch, and they... I saw someone bashing Skywatch against William Optics scopes not long ago on Facebook, so I pounced to their defence. I love the scope. I think it's absolutely tremendous. So there's 180-second exposure. His live stack's caught up yet? No, it hasn't. How are you finding the 6200? Because I don't see many people using those, mainly because they're so expensive. Let's see if this live stack's caught up. No. Is that the last one? Yes. Right, okay. How can I do this? I'll have to move them somewhere. Bear with me. What's the best way of doing this? I will literally just take... Let's try the 15-second exposures first. Just throw them in there. Go back to where that copies. I just want to stack the 15-second exposures and see what those come out like in a quick stack. So let's start a new stack. Let that do its stuff. Yeah, M31 does fit nicely, I imagine, in because on the 268 it's obviously a cropped APS-C size sensor, so it's let's say marginal. You're missing bits of the edge, so I can imagine with your 6200, yeah, it'll be very nicely framed. It's just so expensive, the camera. Still looks quite blown out. I'm not sure what the O3 and the S2 data is going to look like for Orion. I've never imaged it in narrowband before. Right, it's one of those that the wife doesn't know how much it cost. And if she says, "Is that a new camera?" You say, "No, I've had this years. I've had this years." Still think that's too blown out. I'm gonna stack the 5-second subs after this. See what that looks like. So, are you imaging tonight, Cliff S? Or is it too cloudy? I don't know where you're from. I'm in York in the north of UK. Luckily I'm in a Bottle 4 area, so I'm not in York City Centre. I'm nowhere near York City Centre, to be honest. I'm more closer to the North Yorkshire Moors. Not in the Yorkshire Moors either, but I'm sort of in between York and the North Yorkshire Moors. So luckily I live in a small village where I've got a great view of the south sky. Not so great of the north sky because the house is in the way, but I can't complain. I know some people have to image from cities, so having quite dark skies. I mean, it's quite spooky because in my back garden, when there's no moon, in the winter, you literally can't see things in the garden, like the walls, the fences, the shed. They are literally obscured with the darkness. It's crazy. So I do count myself fairly lucky to have such a nice dark sky in my back garden. See if this PixInsight's caught up yet. So I want to stack those other ones. Not really. It's nearly finished. Is that the on zoom? Okay, you're in Salisbury. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been to Salisbury. I went down to visit Stonehenge a long, long time ago. I had an obsession with Stonehenge for a bit. I still do, actually. Got doing M1 with your L Extreme. Excellent. Steve Young, hello. You're imaging tonight south of the UK, Bottle 4 as well. Excellent. I've only got the horse head tonight using an ASIA. Interested to know what Nina is like. I've covered it in some of my other live streams. I'm a absolute convert. So I used to have an ASIA, but I sold it because I got some equipment that wasn't ZWO, my camera. And then I got a focuser that wasn't ZWO. So I started off on using APT, and then I moved from APT to SGP when I got my autofocuser, because the autofocusing didn't exist in APT at the time. I know it now does, but SGP was an option for me, so I went SGP. And then literally only about 3 months ago I started using Nina, and I have to say I'm not running the latest beta build. I'm running the latest stable build, so I've not got none of the new features, but I do have it on another rig I've been playing with. It's phenomenal, the development of it and the features that are coming along. Yeah, Cliff, it's yeah. Oh, it's always that daunting thing of working out. Well, okay, where do I do this? Because they all do the same things in subtly different ways, and obviously some of them have got newer features and better features. So it's taking that plunge. I know Trevor from Astro Backyard. He's often commented on that he finds it difficult to move away from a workflow that he's got so used to, and I completely understand that. But I absolutely love it. I love the autofocusing, which is very similar to SGP, but I find I get more accurate with Nina. The plugins which are coming in the new version when it comes out of beta, there's some phenomenal plugins coming along that are basically written by the community. I also had SGP nearly, well, it did cause my mount to go into stupid mode during a meridian flip, and that put me off as well. I'd been using it for a year and it's the first time it did it, but in Nina I've had no issues with meridian flips. Yeah, the framing wizard, yeah, literally. This is how I compose my target tonight. Type in what you want to find, load the image. I'm not going to be careful here. Center it up and then send it to a sequence, and it will literally plate solve to this. It knows that this is my camera sensor and my 100mm f5 ESPRIT, what it will appear like, and it will basically plate solve it till, I've got mine quite aggressive, I've said within 0.5 arc seconds I believe. So I want it as close to what I've asked it to be, and it generally finds it on the second plate solve. So yeah, it's absolutely great. So okay, that stack of the other ones, so I'm going to do another stack. Let's get rid of those. Let me get those 5-second exposures. I'll just throw those up here as well. Only problem we've had with the flips is the first plate solve always fails. Oh, I'll have to check that. I know eventually I might get the same, but I've never really noticed it, to be honest. When we've got a meridian flip, well, we've got a meridian flip in an hour. So we'll see how it goes. Let me try a live stack of these 5-second exposures. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nina. The fact that it's open source and free is great for the community. Even if the guy charged 15 quid or something when he decided to write it, we would have made quite a lot of money. People would have paid a small amount of cash, and I'm tempted to. I think there's a contribution on their Nina website to send them a donation. I'm tempted to do it because I'm fully converted after 3 months of using it now. This is the 5-second exposure. You can see trapezium in there, so I'm wondering if I should have just done a huge 5-second exposure sequence of like 500 frames or something. So the way I image as well, I use a mini PC. I've done for probably 2 years now. Seems to be trendy to use one of those at the moment, with Quiv the Lazy Geek advertising his use of one. And I mainly do it because it means my cable management on my rig, I can just make it so much better than having to have a cable going to a laptop sat on a table or in a box. It just makes that side of it a lot easier. There's slight downsides to running it off a mini PC because it's headless. If I lose Wi-Fi connectivity to it and I don't know why, I won't be able to reconnect to it, but I've got workarounds for that as well, but I've never had to use them yet. But yeah, I would never go back to a laptop. My mini PC is absolutely fantastic. So much so I bought the exact same model and put it on my second rig, which isn't out tonight, but it's set up in exactly the same way. And because I've got the right model, I'm running it off my Pocket Power Box, which is another thing I'm a big fan of, the Pegasus Astro one. So I can look at all my voltages, my amp draw. So this is interesting. So with the mount, a camera, a focuser, and the Pocket PC, it hasn't drawn more than 6 amps by the looks of it. And I'm feeding it with a nice 10 amp power supply. I thought I'd close the Ethernet for a second. Is that light? So everybody news joined, I am imaging the Great Orion Nebula with multiple sequences, 30 seconds, 15 and 5 seconds, and we're currently on the 180-second exposures in HA, and then it's going to flick over to O3 and start doing the same pattern. And then I'm live stacking each of the things. So that's the 30-second stack, 15-second stack, and this is the 5-second stack that it's currently building at the moment. It's such a bright target. I mean, look at this. This is 180-second exposure, so the core's completely blown to bits, but there's so much data in here, so I'll be able to recover the core using the shorter exposures, but still get all this great detail out here as well. I normally do 10-minute exposures on most of my narrowband targets, and the reason I do 10 minutes is there's a great feature in SharpCap which allows you to determine what's the optimal exposure length based on the sky's darkness and your camera's sensors characteristics, for want of a better word. And it came out at about 9 minutes 45 seconds. I was already using 10 minutes, so it confirmed that 10 minutes is my sweet spot. Anything more than 10 minutes, I'm potentially wasting my time. So what are we on? Image number 4. Let's see how this live stack of the... Okay, so that's the live stack of the 5-second exposures. And the core's still gone. But I might try some 1-second exposures and see what we get. I was looking at what the horse head would look like. Again, I've only imaged this in wide field before, and it does actually fit rather nicely. And I also wanted this. I've not had my mono camera very long, and the antlia filters that I'm using claim to have fairly good halo suppression on O3. So obviously we've got Alnitak here, one of the bright stars in the belt of Orion. I'm tempted to throw it up at the horse head and see what we get for O3 on this, and see if we do see any haloing. My L Extreme on my one-shot color camera is well, unfortunately, it's really bad for halos on bright stars. It's a great filter, but it does suffer from halos. So those are the live stacks. I wish I could minimize this window. Can I start another instance of PixInsight off? I'll just see if it'll let me do that. No. Yeah, what do you use for polar alignment, Cliff S? Then, because I've basically as well. At the same time I started using Nina, I don't use the because I haven't got the plugins yet. I don't use the polar alignment in Nina. I flicked over to using SharpCap for my polar alignment. I used to use a PoleMaster, which I thought was great, and it is a good device, but it's one less thing I have to cable up and take away, and I find SharpCap very, very accurate. That's all I use it for. I've used it. Well, in fact, I did some moon imaging, planetary imaging the other night of the moon. I used it for that. So I use it for polar alignment and the camera statistics stuff that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, yeah, PoleMaster. I'm not dissing it at all. I used the PoleMaster for 3 years. It I nearly gave up astrophotography because of polar alignment. The first mount I bought was a Star Adventurer. I couldn't polar align it to save my life. I didn't really know what I was doing. This was like 4.5 years ago. And when I discovered the PoleMaster, it sort of one made things a lot easier and also taught me what I was basically doing. So I probably could manually polar align my gear now, albeit I've got a CGX which doesn't have a polar scope. So, but yeah, the less time spent faffing around setting things up, the better, and more time spent imaging. But it's obviously a really important part of getting your stuff ready. So I literally polar align in SharpCap in about the same amount of time you can do it in PoleMaster. Probably takes me 3 or 4 minutes tops now. Excuse me. So for anybody who's just joined, we are imaging the Great Orion Nebula. I have got multiple exposures going on. We've got 20, 30-second exposures, 20, 15, 25, and we're currently doing 10 at 180. That's all in the HA filter. This is what a 180-second exposure looks like. Core's been blown to bits, but I'm hoping I'll be able to recover it with some of the lesser length exposures. Red Bull, keep me awake. Guy who's looking a bit pants. This here, this is caused by the dither. This is what you expect to see. I don't think that's a massive deflection. Technically it is, but it is part of the dither process. I've noticed my polar alignment, because Orion's quite low in the sky for me. The lower I go to the horizon, the worse my guiding is. But for the length of exposures we're doing, it'd be absolutely fine with those numbers. So it'd be interesting. We're on exposure 8 of 10 of the 180, and we're going to be flicking to the O3 channel. I've no idea what the O3 channel is going to look like on Orion. There might be next to nothing there because there's no O3 data, but we'll see with the 30 and 15 and the 5-second exposures to start with. So it's also looking clear tomorrow night as well. Oh, well, certainly where I live, it is. And potentially Saturday night as well, up until about 3 o'clock. Whoops, he says, hitting the microphone. So we got some potentially another two, possibly 2.5 clear nights coming up. It's a great start to 2022. It really is. I'll show you what I've been imaging in the first part of 2022. I'm going to reprocess this, but this is the rosette that I've been capturing on my previous live streams. This is the uncropped version. If there's anybody who's watching my previous amateur attempts at live streaming, this is the rosette that I captured as part of that. So that's 11 hours. I'm going to reprocess it though, because I'm not entirely happy with it. It's got some great detail in here, but I've inadvertently made it too noisy that I can't denoise now. So I know it's hard to see at this level, but I'm certainly going to keep this one. I'll call this version 1 and then I'll reprocess it for version 2. Yes, I mean, it does rise a lot later tomorrow. So the moon on Friday, sorry, the moon tonight rose at 1744 over in the east. Tomorrow it rises at 1902. And Friday it rises at 8:30ish for me, and then on Saturday it rises at 20 to 10. So hopefully, if I'm wanting to add some more detail, more data to Orion, the moon will be again further away. But the narrowband images, I can tell from my mean value down here, 500, 503. That's not bad with a full moon out. When there's no moon, that mean value, albeit it's a different target, but the background is basically showing what the mean value of that is. I'm normally down at about 400, so it's not that much brighter, the background sky. Yeah, cheers, Cliff. I'm fairly happy with it. It's just I want to redo it again. I've spent 11 hours on it, which isn't a huge amount of time compared to what some people do. This is the boring bit, waiting for images to come in. I also fixed this issue as well, which I was fairly happy with. Where are the images? So earlier on in the week, whilst I'm waiting for Orion to appear from where I can image it for, because there's some trees that are in my neighbour's garden that are in its way, I've been imaging the flaming star. And there's obviously a dust mote here. I can handle that. But then I started to notice this line, very focused line, and then also these bits here, and I was incredibly upset about it. Let's see if we can show it on another image. You can see that line there. So anyway, I disassembled my imaging train, and there was literally a very, very small, I'll just describe it as what looked like to be an eyelash. And this is that. So I managed to clean everything off today. So if we have a quick look actually at one of the subs I've taken, that would have been difficult to calibrate out, that, to be honest. Let's have a look at what Pix Insight stretches. The 108 seconds, so yeah, it was down here. I got rid of it, so I'm quite pleased with that. I hate taking apart my imaging train because unlike the ZWO, which I have a 2600 MC color camera, it's a pain in the backside to disassemble the QHY because the spacers and the filter wheel are all bolted together. There's no concept of unscrewing things. But I had some time at dinner time today from work, so took it apart. My fear was that whatever that black line was before I just knew it was an eyelash of some description, that it was underneath the sensor glass. Luckily it wasn't, because otherwise it'd have to go back. But it was because it was that sharp in focus. It gave me the impression that it could well be under the sensor. And I spoke to a friend called Luke, and he sort of had the same theory as well, is that really could be under the sensor glass, which would be, well, the camera would have to go back. The QHYs are not serviceable past the glass. by yourself. And plus, I've only had it 3 months, so I wouldn't have been taking it apart myself anyway. It'd have gone back. But anyway, it was on the sensor glass on top, so I was able to extract it quite easily with the wind. Guiding's creeping up. There's the dither. But yeah, I'm not too worried. So I think we're on, yeah, the last sequence of HA. What time is it? Looking randomly. So I think we're going to be finished by 22:52, which is crazy for the amount of data we're seeing. If anybody's got any questions, do feel free to ask. I will try my best. I've got Meridian flip soon. 40 minutes. What's that? It's going to be about 10 to 10. Go away. Why won't you go away? Right, thank you. Hi, John and Don. Yeah, I think you were in the stream the other night. Good to see you. Thanks for joining again. In fact, thank you for everybody. I know I'm not a popular streamer. I don't stream very often. I'm trying to do more. I'm trying to get more content onto my YouTube channel, but it's finding time. And I'm quite robotic. Well, I think I'm quite robotic in nature on some of my videos. So I do quite like the live streaming, though. It feels a little bit more natural. So what's happening now is, because we have finished the HA, it is now changing filter, and I have set my sequence here, I'll move that out of the way, to say run an autofocus on filter change. And the reason I do that is I haven't set my filter offsets up yet. For me, this will take 3 or 4 minutes. I'm happy for it to let it do a refocus. So we should be on the 03 channel now. So yeah, active filter's gone to 03. And it's now put the focuser out, so the picture is out of focus. So we actually look at the image. It'd be interesting because I bet this is, well, these are 15-second exposure, so Orion's still going to be in the picture. Yeah, so that's an out of focus exposure. It's now winding the focuser in, and what we should see is these stars get smaller. This is reflected by this value here. This red is meaning that the quality of that frame it doesn't think is that good. But it will come back down, and it will get to a point, and then it'll start going back up out of focus. And that's called a V curve. It looks more like a U. I've got to get up early, so we'll be packing up about 10:30. Yeah, that's, yeah. It's one of the advantages of, I currently work from home for my job as part of COVID. So it does mean I can get to stay out a little bit later than what I would. So yeah, I feel free, if you've got to get up early, then there's, you got to take the time that you can and make sure you get your sleep, because there's nothing worse than waking up feeling exhausted, especially if you've got to drive somewhere. John and Dawn, you've been subbed and looking at the videos. I guess my wooden approach to everything. I can't. I've got to learn how to be more natural in front of the video. I really have. It's really difficult. So you can see here the curve's coming down. So focus is going to be, right now it thinks at about this point, so it should start going up this way. If we bring this further in, we'll get more of a curve. Focuser I'm using is the Primalucha Lab Sesta Senso 2. It's got over 1,000 steps and it's 0.7 microns per step. The thing is ridiculously... I've got no backlash on it. I've got two. I've got one on my second rig as well. I liked it the first time, the first one so much. I bought a second one. It works great. It really does. Nice and easy to fit. I don't use any of the Wi-Fi stuff. The only thing, I mentioned it, I won't go into it too much, but I mentioned it in another live stream I did. They've updated the firmware for it recently to version 2, but they insist that you've got to do that through their Play software. And that means another ASCOM driver that they've released for it, and it gives errors when you go anywhere near the focuser. So I've tweeted them; they haven't got back to me yet. So I'm just happy leaving it on the version that it's on. I think it's version 1.3 of the firmware and 1.3 of the ASCOM driver. I was looking at a Moonlight crawler just before Christmas, but they're so expensive. But they do look very good because I want a rotator, and I'm struggling to get a rotator in my imaging train due to back focus. So that's a really nice curve. This is the ultimate focus point down here in the green, so it will position the focuser there. The reason these red lines are so large is because that's in the middle of the frame, and it's taking that into consideration for the quality of the image, because it's expecting to see just the field of stars. So I'm not too worried about... Well, that's my interpretation of what those red lines are anyway. So it's refocused on O3, and it looks like O3's got a ton of data as well, because that's a 15... My autofocus exposures are 15 seconds. So we've got O3 data coming in. Looks like the trapezium's a lot more visible on O3 at 15 seconds. Whee! Have you gone? Right, there we go. So you'll notice outside what appears to be a very bright lights appeared from the left. That's my, well, they're not technically my neighbour. They live in a different part of the village. And they occasionally let their dog out in the back garden, which just sets the security light out. So it doesn't really affect the image as much. It looks a lot brighter on that camera than what it actually is. No complaints. There's a lot of trees blocking the light as well. Those are the same trees that block my my eastern's view of the sky, though. My autofocus step size. I recalculated this recently, so I currently have it at some 349 steps. I was at 450 recently, and then I recalculated it using the video from Amy Astro, and it calculated it back at about 349. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go, and I've been happy with it since. If you're using the ESPRIT as well, then unless you've changed the focuser tube, you should be, I would imagine, around the same sort of value. I assume you're using the field flattener as well. I would hope you are with that. Using a baton of mask for focusing seems okay. Would a ZWAF improve things noticeably? Yes and no. No, in terms of you're going to get, if you can achieve focus with a Batinov mask, then the EAF is going to achieve focus not in the same way, but it's going to achieve very, very similar focus results. Where it becomes useful is what just happened there on screen. So I didn't have to stop this sequence, go outside, put a Batinov mask on, which touches the scope, come back inside, refocus, go back outside, take the Batinov mask off, and then when it changes filter again, it'll do the same. Also, I have it set so that when the temperature drops, it autofocuses, because metal and tubes shrink. So it won't improve your focusing if you're getting really nice focusing with a Batinov mask, but it will save you having that manual experience of having to refocus. And to be honest, when I used to use the Batinov mask, as the temperature dropped, I would just literally go, I'll just leave it. It'll be fine. So I wouldn't check my focus as often. And whilst we don't suffer from massive temperature changes over a short period of time, certainly when I started imaging tonight, I think I had a quick look. I think it was about 5 degrees. It's now 3 degrees. It's only dropped 2. It might get down to 0 later. But with a Batinov mask, you would need to check that focus probably every 3 or 4 degrees of drop in temperature, and just check if it's shifted out of focus. So hopefully that answers it. The autofocuser will stop you having to do that, because it will just do it automatically based on the software that you're using. In terms of improving focus, if you're already getting really nice focus with a Batinov mask, then it will be the same once you've tamed the EAF. I had a bad experience with the EAF. The one I used to have one, and it had quite a lot of backlash, and I know you can compensate for backlash, but I don't know, it just didn't feel that precise for me, and I just love the Sesta Senso compared to it. But don't get me wrong, as a starter, it will change how you work in your workflow. The less time I have to go outside when it's cold. I do quite like going outside to look at the sky and stuff, but I don't want to have to go out there unnecessarily all the time. Automate everything, that's my motto. Yeah, absolutely. I'm still not at a position where if I wanted to image tonight till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, assuming it's clear, I'm not confident enough to go to sleep and let this do its thing yet. Whether that time will come or not, I don't know. I've not had any. Well, I've had one meridian flip that went wrong, and I never ever do multiple targets in the same night, so I'm never re-slewing elsewhere. I literally concentrate on one target. Albeit I did the flaming stereo. What I mean is, once I get into my main imaging session, I would never think about setting up 2 or 3 targets, then going to sleep and hoping that the slews they would all work. It's just that time when something goes wrong. You have your auto set to come in with an 8% increase in HFR. I think I've got mine a little bit more aggressive. So on this run, I have it set to... Oh, in fact, I've got it slightly less aggressive. I've got mine set to 10% HFR change and 5 degrees in temperature every 60 minutes, and on filter change. I'm running through the ASI Plus and do not adjust focus during a session. Yeah, it's exactly what I used to do, John or Dawn. I don't know who I'm speaking to. Apologies if it's either of you. I used to be the same. I used to shoot with a Canon lens. It was actually a Sigma 150-600 lens, and I wouldn't refocus. I'd just find focus and start shooting. And when I've re-reviewed those subs a couple of years later, I have seen, oh yeah, actually things are drifting ever so slightly out of focus. So the HFRs for some of the stars were, say, 2.6, and by the end of the session those stars were like 4.7. So it had shifted focus. So it's one of those things, you don't want to learn to walk before you can run, so gradually build things up. I've only been using an autofocuser for 18 months, maybe 24 months out of my 4 years doing this. But it has revolutionized how my workflow works, and once you've got them set up right, it does help tremendously. Both of you. Okay, hello. What I would do is, especially in the winter months, and depends on the imaging train as well. I would maybe. I know it's hard to not want to just image, because as well, depending if there's not a bright, easy to see image, a star in the sky, you may have to slew somewhere else to then slew back to what you were imaging to. But there's probably nothing worse than taking another hour's worth of images that could be better by refocusing. So I'd maybe start by every hour pausing the plan on the ASI Air and refocusing, and then just resuming it. You refocus with the batting off mask. You should be talking, because it will be nearly in focus. If it's shifted, you'll see that the spikes through the middle will have shifted one way or the other. You should be able to get that back in focus within 2 or 3 minutes, and then just resume and go back to your original target and resume your plan. I'll make it sound easy, but it is worth doing. It really is. Hello, Westlake, watching from the sidelines. Thank you for joining. I do appreciate it. That's what I thought. Slight of softening the stars. Like, yeah. If you've taken some images already, if you've not been refocusing at all, what you can do is, I'll show you something here quickly. There's a program called ASTAP on a PC, which is primarily used for plate solving, but it has a really nice feature of checking. I'll do it on the images I've taken tonight. I'll just put in a handful of these 5-second subs. Silly me, I've done the wrong thing. Hang on. I'll put in a handful of these 5-second subs. What I'm going to tell it to do is just to analyze these images, and what it's going to do, it's going to work out what the HFD value is overall for this particular image. So this is the average score for each of the stars, and in theory, the lower this number, the better the image quality for that particular sub is. So if you were to put your images you've taken over the night, order them by time and measure them, if this number just starts to go up, say it started at 3.7, but by the end of the AE run you were at like 4.9, then you've definitely shifted out of focus. And it's one of those things, when you look at that image that's out of focus, it might not look out of focus, it will potentially just look softer, and the star's potentially a bit more bloatier, potentially. So you can see these, what I took earlier, 5 seconds, the HFD's all around 3.6, 3.7, and that's because there's not much time elapsed between these. If I did it for my 10-minute exposures, there will be some movement. And AceTap's free, so it's a free download. It's a fantastic piece of software. We use it for plate solving more than image analysis, but I've started to look at the stacking capabilities. It's not as good as DSS, APP or PixInsight, but it's it has this nice little feature now. It basically said, this is my best image out of that lot, and these two, it's saying, based on, I've said, tell me what the best 80% are. It's saying, if you were to look at dumping, you would dump these two from your stack. I've got a video coming out about that. Back to this. So we're on, what are we on? We're on 03, and we are on, we're on the 15-second subs on 03, so all the 30-second subs are finished. You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Westlake, you're from Ontario, Canada. You're hearing from Trevor Jones's neck of the world. The probably the most followed astrophotographer on YouTube by a long way. Well, closely followed by Chuck, and then several more below him, but behind him, not below by any means. Trevor's definitely got it nailed in that side of the world. I've watched him way back. I won't say right from the beginning, but certainly back to when I first started. I stumbled across him probably when I first started imaging, and he did help me just through some of the stuff that you learn through him. So I'm glad that he's managed to give up his job and does this as his job now. I couldn't think of anything better to do. I'd love to be able to do that. Yeah, we've got some clear skies. It's been unusually clear in the UK, albeit we have a 99% illuminated moon. So right now the sky looks like this. So here's the moon, and that's not where I'm imaging. I'm imaging over here. So yeah, the moon's 99%. But I'm imaging in narrowband, so we are blocking out quite a lot of that light. He's about 25 minutes away from you. Oh, do you know him, or have you just been stalking him? I'm only joking when I say that. Um, I've only been over for a year, but buying an electronic focus is one of the things that improve things the most. Absolutely, I would completely agree with that, Cliff. There are two things that frustrated me with this hobby. One was polar alignment when I was trying to do it manually, and that's because I struggle to get down on the ground, and you get backache, and you're looking through a polar scope, and yeah, that frustrated me. And focusing frustrated me when I thought. I always remember I did a. This is back when I used to use a Sigma camera lens. I thought it was in focus, and I think I did like a 3-hour run, and I checked the first couple, and I must have knocked something, and then everything was out of focus, and I just not realised. It's one of those things. If you're going to take an image and it's out of focus, there's an acceptable out of focus range that you can have, but then there's out of focus which clearly will degrade your final result. So I completely agree. A focuser is a game changer, but also a batting off mask, as we said earlier. But using a batting off mask regularly throughout your night will also save you a lot of grief with your final result. Never met him, just watch his videos, but you're right, okay. So we have an autofocus kicking in the middle of our O3 exposures. The one thing I'd like Nina to have told me, and it probably may well do in the logs, is why this autofocus kicked in. I've got an idea what it is. I think it's because I started this sequence an hour, 60 minutes ago, which is what I've got set on the sequence. Every 60 minutes. I don't think the HFR's changed that much, which I can say here 3.29, 3. That's certainly not 10%, and the temperature hasn't changed. If I go check my power box, the temperature, can I make this any bigger? I don't think I can, but the temperature has only dropped, what's that, 7 degrees, and it now thinks it's about 3.8. I don't think that's enough for it to have nearly closed that. I think it's a 60-second elapsed time. I can easily check that by seeing what my time on my first image was tonight. If it was at about an hour ago, it was 2012. So give up. Yeah, it's the hour focus kicking in, I think. You just an AF kicking on an HFR change. What told you it was the HFR that changed out of interest? As in, what told you that the autofocus was what triggered the autofocus is what I'm trying to say very badly. So I've not seen anything in here that tells me that. Ah, Dimitri, I'm glad you're back. I discovered what the spikes are. I 100% worked it out, and I've got rid of that horrible dust motes as well. You'll never guess what the spikes were, Dimitri. It was literally, you can't see the where it is right now, but on my outside view camera, where the scope is pointing, there is a small tree in our garden with some, I'll say, very thin branches that stick up over the top of that hedge line at the back. They're very spindly and very thin. When I've checked, those branches are exactly in the line of sight of where Orion was. So what I've done tonight is I've brought my scope, my tripod, a lot further back, so I've got a better elevation, and it's seen past or above those spikes. It's 100% that was causing it. And it explains why the diffractions were like, they weren't in the middle, they were sort of off to the side, and it was creating those really odd patterns. So, yeah. So yeah, no spikes tonight. And we're just doing quite a significant run. Multiple exposures, multiple filters. You missed the live stacking earlier, but we've got some. I'll open up one of the images. So a 30-second one, a 15-second one, a 5-second one, and a 180-second one. So that's a 5-second sorry, that's a 180-second exposure of in HA. That's a 5-second exposure in HA. That's a 15-second exposure. And that's a 30-second exposure. So we're on the 15-second exposures on O3 now, and we've got 14 out of 20 done. The O3 data, that's a 30-second and a 15. Let's have a quick look at those two. So that's a 15-second O3. So we've preserved the trapezium there in O3. And that's a 30-second one as well. I think this should be looking quite nice when it's stacked. Yeah, it definitely wasn't a batting off mask. I think I've mentioned at the time I don't use one anymore since I've gone to my electronic focuser. But yeah, it did. It was literally caused by the spikes in that. It's not the spikes, the branches in that tree diffracting the stars. And they're that thin and spindly and spaced out. I can understand how it caused that pattern. Hopefully we're not on a 9-minute lag as well this time. We're in near real time that I'm talking to you. Sorted that out as well. So for anybody who just joined, we are imaging the Great Orion Nebula. This is the O3 channel. These are 15-second exposures. This is the last of them. And then we're going to be moving on to the 5-second exposures. And then we do the 180, and then we'll be on the S3 channel. I'm probably not going to keep streaming till the end of that. I might even pause it and go to the Horsehead. I want to see what this looks like, because I've got it in the framing wizard here. Or should I wait and finish Orion and then do, because I've also got tomorrow night as well, and potentially Saturday's looking good, so trying to maximise my time. I can't stay up too late. I do have work in the morning. What the HFR says of this, it'd be quite low. Average is 3.3. Okay, it's only going to do it on new images. Yeah, I think I'll finish Orion because I'm probably going to add more data to it, but I just want to finish off, I suppose, the sequence that I've asked it to do. The moon is quite illuminated tonight, so it's literally looks 100%, but it's actually technically 99 according to what I've looked at. I did that move to the Horsehead and my whole night got ruined. Okay. Sorry to hear that. I wasn't laughing because I thought it was funny. I am genuinely sorry that your night was ruined. I suppose that's the other thing about astrophotography. That's my rosette as well, by the way. But this is what I've been imaging on my live streams I want to say last week. I did it over a couple of nights, but this is actually 11 hours. Fairly happy, but I am going to reprocess it again because I've introduced some noise that I can't get rid of now. The filters I'm using are the antlia 3nm 2" mounted filters. And the size scope I'm using tonight is my favourite scope I have, which is the ESPRIT 100 ED triplet refractor, which is a f5.5 100mm scope with a focal length of 550mm. So things like the Horsehead and Alnitak and the Flaming Nebula, they fit really nicely in that field of view on my cropped sensor camera. Do you take flats for each filter? Yes. The reason to do that is there potentially will be different dust motes on any of the filters. So I try and keep everything dust free, but it's almost impossible. As you saw, well, if you joined the stream the other night, that's basically what I had on my sensor, is a very small eyelash, which I don't know where that's come from. It wasn't there originally, and some dust. But you will get dust on the filters, so yeah, you should always take flats for each of your filters, because there will potentially be different dust patterns. And even if there's just a very small dust mote on one and not on another, that's going to throw your calibration off. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't afford the Astrodon or the Chroma filters, which are incredibly expensive, and the Antlia ones were getting some really nice reviews, so I decided to go with those, and I've been happy with them so far. I really have. I need to buy. I've literally only got the HA03 and S2, so I do need to buy an LRGB set, and I'll need that for when we get Galaxy season coming up soon. So unfortunately, where I got them from don't have them in stock in the UK at the moment, so I'll keep checking every day. Make this any bigger. Doesn't look great in O3, does it? I did some live stacking of them earlier. The HA channel. It was slightly blown out. I say slightly. It was blown to bits. But I should be able to recover that in processing. I was imaging this earlier this evening, just whilst I was waiting for. I can't find it now. The Flaming Star Nebula, which is really high in the sky at the moment, and I did a live stack on that. So that's a 10-minute exposure. There is actually a lot of detail here. I don't know what YouTube's doing to that, but that's the HA channel. Purely as a time filler. So I've got about, I think, 2 hours on HA on that now. So it's one of those, rather than just sat here waiting for Orion to rise where I can image it, I'll just find something I can point my scope at and do some images and see what I get from them. So completely unplanned. Cliff, who stocks me in the UK, 365 Astronomy. So, guy called Zoltan runs 365 Astronomy. A very nice chap. I don't actually know him. But the ones I need, if it shows they're in stock, right? The ones I need are these. So expensive for 4 filters, but the HAS 3 and O2 are roughly this price each. So the camera I'm using, Dimitri, is the 26. Sorry, not the 26. Is QHY268M, which is basically that. And I've got a filter wheel on that, which is the QHY filter wheel as well, the large one, because that allows me to put 7-inch to 7 2-inch filters in there. And what's great is Nina has a native support for the QHY. You can see it here. And it has some great features which I don't find on ZWO cameras. Like it knows the humidity within the sensor chamber. And the reason you might want to know that is you're probably aware that sometimes if you cool down some of the older ZWO cameras, they will fog over. I used to have a 071 MC that used to suffer from it. If you cooled it down too quickly, you'd get some condensation. So little things like that, really nice. I also have a 2600 MC as well, which it's on my second rig. It's on my Edge HD at the moment, which I'm decided to sell. So great one-shot color camera. I haven't had the oil leak on it, and I'll probably keep it for color imaging when I'm not doing mono. Yeah, the Antlia dual band one. I don't think it's officially. Well, actually, it was officially released just before Christmas because 365 had it in. This is it here. It's also a 5 nanometer filter, which the L Extreme is a 7 nanometer one, so it's got a tighter bandpass. But it's it literally, like you can see here, arrived, but the first shipment was sold out in 2 days, and he doesn't know when they're getting them back in. But yeah, it did seem to get some very nice reviews, and some of the test images I've seen with it have been very nice. So, but Optolong are also bringing out a competitor to that, so they're calling it the what are they calling it? Optolong L Ultimate. They mention it on here. There's a guy on YouTube. I forgot his name. He's been testing it. So the L Ultimate is effectively, they claim it's a 3 nanometer bandpass. And you'll see on here it talks about that there's, I'm sure it mentions that they talk about the reduced ALOs. So yeah, both Optolong and Antlia are bringing out their own enhanced version of a dual narrowband filter. Now, as you can see, we're about to do a meridian flip, so I am going to go outside and watch it, but you should be able to see the flip on the camera. That's right, Sean from Visible Dark is testing it. You're absolutely right. So we should see the flip. You should see the flip. I'm going to go outside because I don't trust things still, even though it'll be absolutely fine. I'll be back. Well, in fact, I'll wait till it's near ready to go do the flip. Yeah, I'm going to wait to well, for my one-shot colour, I've got an L Extreme, so I would definitely want to replace that with either the Antlia or the Optolong L Ultimate. I'm going to wait and see what the test results are from a wider group of people. So I'm in no rush to get one just yet, but I think it will be another step in the right direction for one-shot colours. And don't get me wrong, I've only been shooting in monochrome for 3 months, if that. In fact, not even that, 2 months. I got my monochrome camera in December. Let me just double check that. Oh no! In fact, I'm gonna go check this flip. Okay, hopefully you saw that flip. I'm hoping we don't have those twigs in the way this time. The other night, we'll soon find out if we do. So what it's doing now is, after doing the meridian flip, it's basically repositioning the scope exactly with the same field of view that we had previously. The image will be upside down, but the stacking will take care of that. So right now it's basically saying, I've taken an image, I'm not within inside the tolerance that I've set, which is quite low. It's now saying I'm within sight tolerance, and it's selecting a new guide star. So I just want to check PhD2, see what it's picked. Some very bright stars in here. This, because I've told it, even though we've only recently done an autofocus, I always autofocus after a meridian flip. Don't know why. Old habits die hard, as I would say. Westlake, yes, that is a wise cam, so those are incredibly difficult. Oh no, that's not right. They're not widely sold in the UK, so I found a guy who was importing them in on eBay. But I watched Patriot Astro's video of the wise cam, and I was like, that's what I need. So incredibly cheap. I have to say the image quality of them is absolutely fantastic, and the software just works great. I've literally got it on a camera tripod, And because with the latest firmware for it, you can do an RTSP stream. That's how I've got it coming into my live stream. So yeah, really impressed. As well, because the moon's out. There's no IR lights on that camera either. So there's no infrared being spat out of it, but it does actually have a nice feature called near or far infrared, and if you put it on the near, it comes out at a wavelength that shouldn't affect my imaging. But so far I've not had to put it on, so I've just left it with infrared off. Yep, cool for me. It might have been cool for you. It was nervous for me. As I say, I've had one meridian flip when I was using SGP that went badly wrong. And what happened was, if you imagine what you can see now, is that the scope just kept going over and over and over, and to the point where part of something was hitting the tripod leg. I managed to switch it off before it did any real damage. Yeah, I've not tried the time lapse just yet. I normally stick out my Canon. I've got a Canon DSLR 5D Mark III. I normally stick that on a tripod and do a time lapse with that, but because I can get some really nice f2.8 wide open with a 24mm lens on it. It creates some nice time-lapsed images of the sky. But I will try it with the Wisecam. It's literally what they're $30. It cost me £45 in the UK. I've got to say, I use the Ring ecosystem for security cameras, which my back one currently isn't on, but the quality is on par, if not better, than a Ring camera, at about 4 times the price. What's happened to this guiding? That's gone horrendous. There is something not right. It's dropping. It's dropping. It's okay. Oh no. I mean, for the length of exposures I'm doing, I'm not too bothered. I'm not too worried about that, but I just wondered if there's a snag. It's a lot higher. Okay, we're dropping out, it's settling down. Remember my other videos, don't go chasing the numbers as long as the stars are round. And even at a 380-second sub, even at 1.2 minutes, it'll be absolutely fine. Have a quick look at the O3 data in here. 180-second sub. What I always do, and this is probably if John's still in the chat, is I always open up my subs and go into the corners and start to look. Are the stars still round in the corners? You know, then you've not got a backspacing issue. There is actually a feature in PixInsight. I forget what it's called. I think it's. I don't remember where it is. I've sidetracked. Let's go back in here. Yeah, guiding's come back down to about 1 now, so I have seen that on Meridian flips. And I don't know who the guy was who mentioned earlier that the Meridian flip always fails the plate solve on the first one. I didn't see it fail it, but I wasn't looking. Yes, what I was saying, John, is I periodically just check my stars to make sure we're not getting any elongation. By checking the corners, zooming in. Again, I think Quiv the Laser Geek came out in a video not long ago and said he doesn't care about the star shape. Well, I don't agree with him. I know he's a great YouTuber, but I do care about the star shape. Because if the stars are elongated, then I struggle to see how you can end up with an image that won't be as good as you could potentially have made it. So enough of that. What guide scope and camera am I using? So my guide scope is an Orion 60mm 240mm focal length. It is the one that all the other companies rebrand. It is literally that one, but I bought the original Orion one, so you'll see SV Boney and various other Chinese manufacturers have basically copied this scope, either under license or not licensed, but they're exactly the same by the looks of it. I don't know if they use the same glass. But I bought the original Orion one, 60mm. And I'll tell you a crazy story. When I got the first one, which was ordered through Amazon but came via Orion in the US, one of these thumb screws, I'll say the thread was stripped, and I don't even use these. I have mine mounted in I'll call it a lens bracket. So I don't use this thumb screw type guide scope rings affair. Anyway, I still wasn't happy that something was damaged when I bought it. So I contacted Amazon, who said you need to contact Orion because it wasn't sold via Amazon directly. And Orion just said, we'll just send you a new one. Don't even send the old one back. So they literally sent me a free 60mm guide scope just because one of these was threaded. So I thought that was great service. I did offer to send the other one back, and they said, don't bother, just keep it. And the camera I use in there is a ZWO ASI 290mm, which is... It's not that one. It's that one. I use one of those in both my rigs as guide cameras. Horrible PhD graph off screen. So you'll notice after the meridian flip, the image is now inverted, which is correct. It's effectively on the other side of the pier, so it will appear upside down to what it was originally. But when we stack these all together, the stacking software will take care of aligning them correctly. Oh, I've got a bit of a cough again. Apologies. So we are on the last set of the 03 data, which is 10 180-second exposures. Ask me more questions about stuff, because we're not going to see anything exciting happen here, unfortunately. I'm happy to talk people through things where I can. Here's a hotly discussed topic: temperatures. So I cool down to -10. Oh, we've got a star in the house. Chuck is here. Hi, Chuck. It is an absolute honor that you have joined my live stream. It really is. So thank you for coming. We're imaging the Orion Nebula in narrowband at the moment. But what I was about to talk about was cooling down temperatures. Um, for whatever reason, I've picked -10. I haven't done any statistical analysis, but -10 works for me. I use -10 in the summer and I use -10 in the winter, and I've just stuck with that. Yeah, what we were doing earlier, Chuck, we were doing a live stack in PixInsight. So as the images were coming in, I was live stacking them, and yeah, the HA channel looks quite nice. This is the 03, so unfortunately I've closed the live stack down. Um, the HA, I've got some 180-second exposures where the core's blown to bits, and then I've got some literally down at 5-second exposures as well. Yeah, this is Nina. So I mentioned it earlier. I used to use APT, uh, and then I moved to SGP, and then I moved to Nina. Yeah, so live stacking in PixInsight, what you can do, Chuck, is this. It's part of the Easy Processing Suite, so you can literally go to Easy Live Stack. You can say Start a new stack. You can pick an image and then say Start watching that folder, and what will happen is if you move your files into that folder, which mine's doing automatically, it will just stack the images in a very rough way, but it will stack them on the fly. And so as an image is taken, drops into this folder, it just automatically sat there waiting for a file to appear, and it will just add it onto the current stack. Yeah, it's part of the Easy Processing Suite. It's a nice little tool. Yeah, it's you don't get many things you can tweak with the parameters, but if you just want to see what a rough stack without actually doing a stack looks like, and just keep it running through the night, you see your image building up over time. And so yeah, I've started doing it quite a lot. So what I generally end up doing is copying the files over manually and then opening them in PixInsight and doing a stack fully and then looking at it. It's like that just saves a lot of time. Connect via Ethernet or remote computer. So this is connected on Wi-Fi. So you'll notice down here, I'm literally just on my Wi-Fi, but in my back garden, I have a mesh Wi-Fi throughout the house. So it's got a decent signal strength to one of the mesh points up in one of the bedrooms, and then those mesh Wi-Fi adapters are on my Ethernet. So I work in IT, so my entire house is Ethernet wired in most rooms. So I can literally put a device, i.e. a Wi-Fi mesh extender, in any room, which basically gives me full coverage in the garden no matter what. So I don't have any Wi-Fi issues with anything when I'm outside, really. So we're on exposure 6 of 10 of the 180 subs. We have, this is the images we've done so far. We are here. We will then be starting on the S2 channel. And again, we'll be taking 30 seconds, 15, 5, and 180-second exposures again. If you're still in Chuck, you really need to start looking at Nina. I used to use SGP. I used it probably more than I did APT. But Nina's, it's just so good. It really is, and it's free. You don't have to sign up for that nonsense subscription model that SGP are now doing for version 4. And it's getting so many new features and development. It's phenomenal. Just return the mesh. So which one did you have, Westlake? I originally had a Google one, and it was awful. So I ended up getting something I never thought I would, which was the BT mesh one. Working in IT, BT equipment usually isn't that great, but the BT mesh Wi-Fi stuff is absolutely great. It just works all the time. No one has any dropouts ever. I can literally seamlessly roam around our house, and I get moved from access point to access point transparently. It just works. So I've been really happy with it. I was the same, Chuck. I was talking about earlier that, a bit like Trevor, it's hard to get away from a workflow when you're so used to it, and you're always scared that you're going to waste a night's imaging coping with issues and problems. So you have to bite the bullet and go for it. You can do a practice run with the simulators. In fact, on my channel, I've got a video on how to set up various simulators to allow you to do a dry run on Nina, and that's exactly what I did. I'll never go back to SGP or APT now. I really won't. It's the best astrophotography tool that I've used, in my opinion. And the fact that it's getting daily, weekly, monthly development, I can't see it only going from strength to strength. A D-Link Corva, I'm not familiar with that. We're getting terrible dropouts with the Sonos on our cable company. It's one of those things, you might just got some incompatibilities without knowing. I'm fortunate enough to live in the countryside, where the village that I live in, there's only 1,000 people, and where I live, there's only 3 or 4 houses nearby, so we're not Wi-Fi congested. So yours could be anything from Wi-Fi congestion to something else interfering with it, to faulty firmware, all sorts of things it could potentially be. Ignore the bad guiding figures. So what this is doing, Chuck, is it's PhD2 that's guiding, but Nina gets the values and plots them in its own interface as well. And I've got really bad guiding at the moment, but the exposures are so short, I'm not too bothered. The stars around. Tried the live stack on ASI Pro for the first time last week, and I've considered inviting a few interested pals around for them to choose some tags, if you maybe a couple of beers. Yeah, so effectively doing a bit of EAA. I know Luke Amatico, he's done some EAA stuff recently, so I chat to Luke on our personal level quite a bit through the week. So I know he's really getting into some EAA stuff. So yeah, it's good. You pick a nice target and just watch it materialize in front of your eyes. And I suspect the more beers you have, the better it'll be. So is it not good weather with you at the moment, Chuck? We literally have, let's have a quick look. We don't have as good a website. Well, I don't know of one. I use the UK Met Office. So I live roughly somewhere here where the cursor's moving around. This is the cloud cover. So looks to be, yeah, 11 o'clock-ish. There's a thin layer of cloud coming in, and then by midnight it looks like it won't be well, by 1 o'clock it looks like it's going to be washed out. So maybe only get going for another 45 minutes. So don't think I'll manage to finish my sequence, will I? 23:15. No, it looks like it's, well, I'll keep an eye on the clouds. That guiding's awful, but I've skipped a few clear nights because it's been way below freezing. Yeah, I know you probably get colder than we do. We were down at -4 degrees Celsius last week, but that's about as cold as it got for me in the north of the UK. But you can sit inside. You've got your, I think you use a long USB cable, don't you, Chuck? So you can you don't have to go out that much. We've had 45 centimetres of snow near Lake Ontario. Wow. That sounds like a lot. Some clouds in Darlington. That's not a million miles away from where I am. So Darlington is, I'm here. Darlington is up this way. In fact, it's there. So yeah, we can see. I can see that cloud there now. 2100 somewhere at 20. Well, in fact, we must be an hour behind. But yeah, Darlow's definitely got some cloud over it there right now. We haven't got long left, but I'll take it any time I can get. Rolling it out and doing the pole master is still too much in this cold weather. Okay, well, thank you very much, Chuck, for coming by. An absolute legend in the astrophotography world. And thank you for all the videos that you've done. I've certainly watched you and Trevor from when I started, and both of you have helped me tremendously. So thank you from me. 60 centimetres snow here in Niagara. Wow. We had a smattering of snow over Christmas, and that was it. And in the UK, it's an accepted joke because we're terrible with the first bit of snow. The entire country comes to a standstill with literally a dusting of snow on the roads. People don't know how to drive properly. The UK stops. It's quite funny. We just don't know how to handle snow. Um, no, Westlake, I'm not because I'm a bit like I can't remember the YouTuber's name. I'm rubbish with YouTubers' names. It's not Visible Dark. It's Joe's Astro, I think. You'll notice up here I'm not running version 2 because version 2 is still technically a beta. So when you come onto here and go to downloads, the latest release version is 1.10 HF3. The current beta version is version 2. It's only version 2 that's got the plugins, and I have got version 2 running on my second rig, which has got some of the plugins installed, but I daren't risk a night's imaging running beta software. So I'm waiting for version 2 to become the official stable channel on the official stable release, and then I'll flick to it in a heartbeat and use the same plugins that I've been messing around with on my second rig. So right now I'm not using any plugins, unfortunately, but I know which plugins I want to use when I do move to version 2 when it goes out. When it comes out, sorry. I was going to keep an eye on my guide scope because I use my guide scope, although actually with the camera, can I see? I might be able to use the wise cam outside to spot the clouds, actually. Not thought of doing that, but I will certainly keep an eye on that. I had a snowplow stuck in front of my home. Wow. My camera outside just got very bright. It's not the next door neighbour's lights. Is it just where the moon? Looks like the moon. So it looks like we'll get the last of the O3 channel in, definitely. And I reckon we'll get these 30 and 15 second and 5 second. We probably won't get the 180 S3 channel ones in there tonight, I don't think. But that should be fairly easy to finish off. I'm pretty sure tomorrow night is clear, as I said earlier. Yeah. Oh, Saturday night's now showing us fully clouded out, so that's how quickly that's changed. So thank you all for watching. I'm not going to end the stream just yet, but you know, I appreciate that watching someone do astrophotography is probably not the most exciting thing in the world to do. So I'm trying to make it as interactive as I can. And thank you everybody for asking questions. I can't believe Chuck Astrophotography stopped by, who is a absolute legend in YouTube astrophotography. So I'm absolutely made up that he stood by, that he stopped by, but also I'm also made up that every single one of you, all 11 of you at the moment, have also taken time out of your lives to come and watch me do what I now classify as my primary hobby. No, thank you, Westlake, for coming. It's very much appreciated. One thing I like to do is if I can, if I go back 4 years to when I started, I don't know if I've ever showed anybody. I think I did on one of the previous live streams. Let me show you my first image I ever took. Not on this computer. I'm gonna put all these. Ugh, I can't see my screen. Oh, am I going to be able to find it? Probably can't find it. Bear with me. I'll have a look in the background. I was going to show you my first image I took, which is going to be difficult to find. Let me see if I can find it. What I was getting at is I literally went outside with a DSLR that I just bought, had a stock camera lens. It was a crops. It was a cheap DSLR. It was a Canon 750D. Stuck it on a tripod, pointed it at Orion, took some pictures, looked at them and went, wow. I couldn't believe how many stars I could see that I couldn't see with my own eyes. And it went from there, and it's not been plain sailing by any means all the way. There's been some really, really frustrating nights where just things haven't gone well. But I suppose where I was going with this was that if there's anything that I can help someone with as a beginner, or even as an experienced people exchange tips, and we all have different ways of doing things. And some people will be very used to doing it in a very specific way, and that's absolutely fine. I've certainly got some of my, what I'll say, habits. I will do things in a very specific way, and I'll watch another video and go, why are they doing that? And we understand, we all do things our own ways. But if anybody as a beginner who is struggling with a certain thing, I think a guy came on one of the other live streams last week, and was trying to work out how best to work out his focuser step size, and was struggling with it, and gave him some advice, pointed him at Amy Astro's video, and he took that away, and I'm hoping he went away and found something useful like that. So even if one person goes away tonight with some useful information, I'm happy to live stream and yeah. Thank you, John. That is very nice of you to say so. And also, Scott Visions, thank you for subscribing and enjoying the bit of your live stream you've seen so far. Thank you. I'm very much a unscripted, wooden. Sometimes I think I'm very wooden in the way I come across, especially my YouTube videos. I'm trying my hardest. I do actually find doing live streams more natural. I can't speak like this on my videos because you go into some kind of almost like reading from a script robot mode that I can't get out of. So I do actually like doing the live streams. I'm going to try and do more. I don't mind that I've got 10 people watching. That absolutely blows my mind that 10 people live now are watching me. So I wouldn't be bothered if there was one person watching. I'd still do it. I'm going to be doing this, what I'm doing anyway, so I may as well try and live stream it. So we are onto a autofocus, and that is because we have changed to filters. So we should be on the S2 filter now. So I'm going to keep an eye on this cloud. Apologies. I'm going to turn off the audio so you won't hear any PhD2 warnings. Whoops. I'm also going to see. Yeah, absolutely. Westlake. It's half of what I've learned is through learning from other people, reading some books, watching some videos, and reading about tips on forums, Facebook, other live streams. And it's one of those things that I think it's one of those hobbies where there's always room for improvement. So when I'm taking my images, which I think so far with my monochrome setup so far, I've had the best images I've taken. And I've only processed two. One was the Rosette Nebula, and I'm going into show off mode now. So the first image I processed from my 268 was this Heart Nebula. I'm not going to show the cropped one. So this was my first mono image processed back in, was that November or December? I can't remember when I got the camera. Oh, I'm flicking around everywhere. 1st of the 12th. So I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, so learning from people about things. So where I was going was, this was probably my best image today, and then I've got the Rosette that I've taken. So I've already seen an improvement on what was last year's images, and that's because I'm getting more integration time. I'm doing mono. I'm using better filters than I was using last year. And my techniques for PixInsight are improving. They're not great, but they're certainly better than they were last year. And with technology moving on with the sensors, and as I understand it, there's some interesting technology coming along to do with sensors where basically guiding could become a thing of the past, as in off-axis guiding could become part of a camera, is probably the best way to put it. I've probably just explained something really badly. If anybody wants to know details, I'll send you to a video that a guy explains it. What I'm getting at is technology is moving along, software's moving along. I don't think I'm going to hit a point where I'm going to go, my images can't get any better. I think there's always going to be that next challenge of getting to that next stage, and obviously some of that's probably going to involve money. And I'm a big advocate of saying you don't have to throw money at astrophotography to make a good image. You definitely don't. You can use some inexpensive gear that will get you images that you will be more than happy with. But it's that cycle then of how can I improve that, and then you keep it's like everyone going, I want to improve what I did last year with something this year. Well, that's what I've been doing anyway. And at the moment, I don't think there's so many images in the sky that I want to take pictures of, and sometimes they work, they come out well. Sometimes you have bad nights and you have to throw away a load of exposures. There's so much more to image, and there's so much technology coming out that I think there's a long time to be had in this hobby for me, and I'm enjoying it. When we get into the summer months in the UK, which is sort of May, June, July, August time, obviously the nights are very, very short. We don't get really astronomical darkness, and those months are quite challenging. You don't get a lot of integration time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to 2022. We We've got some good astronomical events occurring, various meteor showers. There's some conjunctions of planets, although I'm about to sell my Edge HD 8, so I'm not sure whether I'll have a decent scope focal length size to image something such as those conjunctions that are going to be happening later on in the year. But I'm sure people like Chuck and Ray's Astrophotography, who always seem to get their very large SCTs out for that, will be able to show us some great images. So this is the S3 channel. Let's close that down. I want to have a look at the S3 data, just raw in PixInsight. So these are 30-second subs. Yeah, okay. So you see the trapezium there coming through nicely in S3. I'm hoping when I combine all these, I'll be able to preserve that in the when they're merged with the HA frames. Might have to do some fiddling around. You've just started taking images, so you're new to astrophotography, Scott's Visions. That's good to hear. And you've got an ETX90 with an ASI 224MC, having a great time with it so far. That is excellent to hear. I think I don't want to say good things have come out of COVID, because they haven't, but I don't know how to phrase it. There's certainly been an uptake in astrophotography as a hobby because of COVID. So if that's introduced people to the night sky, then I suppose you could say it is something good that's come out of what has been a horrible couple of years for us all. And I suspect there's some people who've thought, do you know what, I'm going to buy a telescope, and got really frustrated with it and probably sold it straight away. And I can understand that. But if you've got some patience and some perseverance and some aptitude to go find out some information, it's a great thing. I'm not a visual astronomer. I don't do visual stuff. I've never done visual stuff. It's the sort of thing that I wanted to take images, because I do terrestrial photography as well. Not very much these days, because this is sort of taken over, but I've been known out to go out with my DSLR and take some wildlife and some landscape scenery on days out all over the country. So it was a natural progression to think that I want to do nighttime astrophotography. I'd like to go to like a star party and look at someone, look through someone's visual stuff. That's really a really nice setup. Astronaut, found your YouTube PixInsights very helpful, like being back at school, which was a long time ago. Well, thank you very much for that, Astronaut. I'm glad you found them useful. Very much interested in EA. My vision does not help when trying to use an eyepiece. Yeah, EA was is definitely a. I suppose it's smoke and mirrors to someone who maybe doesn't, coming from a non-IT background, to go, well, what's this doing? And it's like, well, it's building the image in real time by taking images and then just overlaying them on top of each other, and the image just starts to magically appear in front of you. So yeah, I think there was always there's a couple of friends of mine. One of them has bought a telescope purely for his kids, and that's great. And I did send him a video off YouTube originally, which was an expectations versus reality video for astronomy, and it showed like a picture of Saturn with all the rings, and then it actually showed you what you would see through a fairly cheapish scope and an eyepiece. And it did that for about 8 or 10 famous targets in the night sky. And I said, you need to watch this, because I need to set your expectations about what you're going to see through your telescope on a night. But he's waiting for me to go over to see him. He lives in Rochdale, over in the northwest of the UK, and I've not managed to get over there since COVID. So he wants me to go over there and help him set it up, because he said every time he's tried to use it, he can basically see nothing through it. So I've tried to give him some guidance over the phone, but I suspect I know what he's doing, but he can't seem to manage to get it to work. And all he wants to do is basically to point it at the moon and let his kids look through it, and maybe find a reasonably sized planet like Jupiter. Well, Jupiter's disappearing out of our skies, so I'm sure we'll have Venus in the sky at a reasonable hour in the coming months. So I'm hoping I can go over there and help him, but we'll have to see how things go. Right, guys, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to call it there. We've been going for longer than I thought we would be. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for asking questions and interacting. It has made it a lot more interesting than just watching me press buttons and go, oh, look at this. So thank you all, and I will try and maybe do some live streaming over the weekend if we get any good weather. I don't want to do it too often to bore everybody, so I'll see how it goes. But thank you all, and clear skies as ever, and I will catch you next time. Bye bye.